Welcome back, everyone, to Pig's Ear Review here at the Tojo Dojo. We're one of the only places where we've been talking about what we've been playing and what we've been watching. I'm Myshtuff, joined by Riku Rose. How you doing today?
All right. I'm good, thanks, mate. You?
Oh, not too bad. I'm excited. We got a lot of interesting things to chat about today. So we got Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. I'm going to be talking about the latest couple of DLC packs for Marvel Midnight Suns. And then to top it all off, you've told me you have a surprise of something that you experienced, I'm assuming watched, if not played, that we're going to be going through.
Yeah, well, today's our 50th episode. Spectacular.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
Cue fireworks.
Yep. Maybe I'll actually take this opportunity to put some special effects in the video for the first time.
I want like 90s clip art.
All right, let me see. Let me see what I can do on that. That's true.
Done.
Exactly. But yes, that's also a good point. 50th show. Can't believe it's been that many already. Talked about all sorts of crazy things. For anyone still watching, appreciate it. Make sure, if you haven't already, to subscribe, share with your friends.
To our one fan.
Yeah, exactly. That one loyal person who maybe every once in a while comments. But yeah, so I'm excited. So I'm going to take a guess. You don't have to answer what it is, obviously, but I'm going to say it's something maybe horror related, possibly anime, and a long shot would be Star Trek, but I don't think even you would ever watch that, but we'll see. As much as I've said about it.
You will find out soon.
Okay. So without further ado, let's go right into it. Over to you for Zelda.
Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you, Zelda is probably second favorite franchise for me after Final Fantasy.
It's definitely one of my favorites. Funny enough, I haven't actually beat all of them. I beat a good chunk of them, but it's definitely up there for me as well. Yeah.
Ocarina of Time was amazing back in the day, and ever since then, never looked back. Leading up to Tears of the Kingdom, I love Breath of the Wild. Don't get me wrong. I was kind of not excited for Tears of the Kingdom, which I seem to feel like I was the only person on the internet who wasn't. Because I watched the trailers and I was like, more Tears of the Kingdom? More Breath of the Wild, sorry.
Yeah.
Because it looked the same. Like, I wanted a new world, a new art style. Like, something Zelda, for the most part, has done is innovate every time. And I know, like, people complain it's the same game all the time, but the art style changes. They give you fresh new dungeons, a fresh new world. And it might hit the same beats, but I've always thought of it a bit like a fairy tale, the boy saves the princess type thing.
Well, even it wasn't until relatively recently that they even created a timeline, almost like retroactively trying to link all the games.
That was made up on the spot as well,
right?
Big time.
Yeah, so the whole idea of canon really wasn't a thing with this series up until they, for whatever, I don't know, like pressure from fans or whatever reason got them to create that. But yeah, even with like Ocarina and Majora's Mask, it was the same engine, but they were radically different games. So it is nice.
They added completely new mechanics to it to give it a fresh spin, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Mask system. But then I started playing it, and I haven't played Breath of the Wild since it came out, I think 7 years ago.
Whenever the Switch came out.
And scary to think about, because kids, my knees are starting to make noises, and I'm worried about my
starting health. Oh, might have been going for years. I got all kinds of noise.
On a weekend, naps are starting to sound good.
That's prime. This is great.
But yeah, I got into it, and I, as I said, have not played Breath of the Wild for like 7 years, so I don't remember it amazingly well.
Sure.
But I think that's a good thing for me as well, because yet again, this all feels fresh. Because even though that game came out 7 years ago, no one learned any fucking lessons from that game when they made open worlds. Everyone went, everyone wants open worlds, we'll just keep making open worlds.
Sure.
No, we want open worlds where the world itself is a puzzle, where there is interesting things to do that actually have a benefit to do.
Yeah.
Hey, go collect 50 flags. Why? Because.
No, because we told you so.
Yeah, that's not fun. Just so I get a little ticker to go up or whatever. Whereas every time in this game or in Breath of the Wild, someone's like, "Oh, I can't get all my chickens like up the hill," right? And you help them get their chickens up the hill, you get rewarded for it with something that actually benefits you and makes your traversal around the world easier. And it's
Yeah.
really a fun mechanic to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So I will say, so two things really quick. One, I haven't played this yet. As I told you before, I bought this on release day. Mainly, well, I had a gift certificate at Best Buy, but also if you get it through Best Buy, I got this cool kind of art print, which is kind of neat. So I kind of figured I may as well get it then. But the other thing I'll say is there has been one game that has rivaled this level of exploration since Breath of the Wild came out, and I will say it's Elden Ring. I think that game did an incredible job of
I'm not
making.
fucking playing it.
I'm not saying you have to, but it is funny though because before Elden Ring came out, people were kind of saying or not everyone, but I heard this comparison that Breath of the Wild was sort of, or sorry, the Souls games were like adult Zelda games. I heard that being said a few times. And then when Elden Ring came out, a lot, I've heard that again, where it's like, oh, now there's like this true open world Souls games, like, because the Dark Souls games are kind of still somewhat segmented a little bit, but Elden Ring is like really, truly open world. And people then became like trying to compare that to Breath of the Wild, and I think now to Tears of the Kingdom, of like these crazy open worlds. But like it's funny because they're very different style of games, but they're both kind of trying to get after the same level of like exploration and open world and like actually rewarding you for it, which is what you're saying. So
well, you talked about Horizon last week,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And I remember when I played the first Horizon, you saw the little dot on your map, and literally all I did was run in that
yeah,
direction to the thing, right? There might have been like a hill I had to go around or things like that, right?
yeah,
But in Zelda, I'm like, right, I have got to get up that hill to that thing.
yeah.
Do I climb up it? Do I walk around it?
Mm-hmm.
Right, there's little goblins over there. Do I really want to fight them right now or whatever?
Sure.
And it becomes a puzzle in how you traverse the world.
Yeah.
The world's not some afterthought because have you ever seen those like Unreal Engine test demos where it's like Sonic running in a field or something, or
Yeah.
Mario? A lot of open worlds just look like that. Like Ghost of Tsushima
Mm-hmm.
just looked like an Unreal Engine 5 demo to me
Sure. Sure. Mm-hmm.
for the most part, right? It was a beautiful world. It looked very stylish, but
Mm-hmm.
it looked stylish. The world itself was not rememberable in any way. And I just
Yeah.
made up a word there, I think.
It's all right. I like it.
But that was it. I more remember like the wind blowing than the actual world itself and
Sure.
traversing. You know,
Mm-hmm.
this though it's just fun.
Remember when games were fun?
Yeah, but it's just fun. And I'll sit there and I'll like take the Switch up the bed and be like, oh, it's like 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can play for an hour or so before I go to sleep. And I'm like, right, I want to get to this town, which is like that far away or whatever on the map. And then an hour later, I have gone that far. Because I got distracted by a trial or some person was like, hey, can you chop down these trees and like do this for me? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Or I go and catch a horse, or I this game is just it's what like being like managing a kid is like. Have you ever like looked after a child and you just can't get their attention to focus on one thing?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes you the child because you're just like, oh, goblins over there. Oh, and a trial. This town.
Look.
Yeah.
But that's funny though that like that because that could be a negative thing if there's that many just random things happening. But it seems like they've still nailed that formula where it's still enticing for you to go do it. You know.
And Yakuza games are really bad for this, or Like a Dragon, whatever we're calling it these days, right? You do not have to sit through a tutorial for any kind of side thing for half an hour.
Sure.
How many games now that implement so many systems, so many side games, so many mini games, all this stuff?
Yeah.
Through the main story, force you into learning the mechanics of something you're never going to touch again.
Mm-hmm.
This game, for the most part, everything's optional. And even when you do come across it, they tell you how it's done in probably under a minute.
Sure, that's good.
Or they want you to just figure it out yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the big thing with this game is you can essentially make vehicles,
Yeah.
right? You're not really like told like, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. Now let's test this out and let's see how it goes. And then you go back to a little text box. Well done, you did great. Now let me tell you about wheels. Like, none of that happens. Essentially, you're like told, hey, you can connect stuff. There's a pile of wood planks over there, a fan, some wheels. Figure it out. And if you die, try something else the next time.
Yeah,
It's just trust in the person.
Yeah, and it's funny too because even though I haven't played it and I haven't had anything really spoiled per se yet, I have seen some funny videos online of people making like Gundam mechs of like shooting lasers and like just stupid shit.
That is so annoying though because I like watch those videos and I'm like, how? How did you make this? And there's
Right.
literally me with like no fan or engine or anything, just putting wheels on a wood plank so I can go down a hill a little bit quicker. And I can't steer it or anything. And I spend 5 minutes building it, and like 2 seconds into getting down the hill, it goes in the direction I don't even want it to. So I just jump off.
But like the ingenuity of people to just take this system to the limits or even past the limits, I'm sure, of what even the developers thought could be done. Like I'm sure they probably planned for all sorts of scenarios, but like I can't imagine they planned for some of the shit I've seen. Like it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, but you know what? It's just sort of a testament to the tools they've given people to play with
Yeah.
as well. One negative I will say is I don't think the dungeons are that great in this game.
Well, that was the thing too. I guess to come back to Breath of the Wild, I think one of the biggest complaints about that was, yeah, there were dungeons, quote unquote, in the sense that they had those divine beasts, but they were sort of like not exactly at classic dungeons. But I've heard in this game that I don't know if they're classic dungeons per se, but dungeons themselves are back, I guess.
So I don't think this formula of Zelda lends itself to dungeons.
Yeah.
Because with the old Zeldas, it was very much a linear path you were going down and solving puzzles in a linear way, right? Whereas Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, it's a very much do it in your own time, do it at your own pace, do it in your own way, which just lends to it being broken at times. And
Yeah.
like a lot of the stuff, so every dungeon, I've been in 2 dungeons and done 2 of them, right? And essentially it's find these 5 things in each dungeon, right? But they put them all straight on the map right away. So you know where they are. There's not really much exploring to be done because your map's already filled out. But also as well, I could see like ways to just cheat and not do the puzzle because you can just like fly up or climb up a wall and sneak in another way.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I'm explaining that well.
I do, but then does that? But if you're in more of that classic style dungeon, if you do that, does that then break the flow of the dungeon? Where if you'd have to like backtrack, like you can't get back into certain places?
You couldn't in the old games because it was like, right, you got to get past this door and solve this puzzle, right? And it'd be like a big shutter down or whatever, and you got to solve that puzzle.
Yeah.
Whereas because you're in like a big dungeon and you've got to go to all 5 corners, oh, I'm so high up on one corner, I might as well just parasail down and be halfway through the next corner's like complex thing, you know? Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. I mean,
it just lends to it being able to be broken, and like it's just a couple of dungeons where I feel like I've kind of skipped half the puzzles.
I guess they're. I don't know. Maybe they're hoping people won't do that. Like they have to have seen that when they made it. Otherwise, they probably would have put a barrier of some kind. But
I guess it's a way to play the game. I kind of miss the old here is a puzzle set up for you system.
Yeah. Yeah,
like
exactly.
Everyone has to solve it the same way. Which you can have that in the dungeons, but maybe just still have the open world be this big play box, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I'm wondering, now they've done this formula twice, and I know I'm sure there's other stuff we haven't said yet about new powers or whatever, but essentially they've done this formula now twice. Do they go back to the old style after this? Or is there a world where both...
No. They compare this to Ocarina of Time. They say, like, you know how that kind of set the precedent for, like, the next couple of generations of Zelda?
Yeah.
They said Breath of the Wild did the same. I would just like a new world, a new art style, things like that next time.
That's fair. That's fair.
Even if you do this again, like open world stuff like that, I'm absolutely fine with that. What I would
That's
like to
fair.
see though is a new world, new characters, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I'll put it this way: yes, I'll be fine with it, but I think it still would be nice to get another older style, quote unquote. I'm, you know what I'm actually wondering is, in lieu of them doing that, I'm wondering if they're just going to put out more remasters of some of the older ones at this point for what's left, or remakes flat out potentially.
I mean, we still haven't had what is it like Wind Waker and Twilight Princess on Switch, so
Hmm.
I'm sure they're coming at some point.
Probably, but like, I
Or
wonder if they would be ever. Like, I wonder if they would ever be so bold as to remake the N64 Zeldas. Like, I wonder if that would just be like sacrilege. Like, I know on the 3DS they kind of did a little bit, but not really. Just made it better a little bit.
I don't think it's in Nintendo's DNA. Like, don't get me wrong, if it was Sony or something by now, Bluepoint would be making it. You know, and
Right.
there's nothing against them. I just don't think that Nintendo think again. Like, look at the Metroid Prime remaster. It was
Hmm.
literally just like jazz it up a little and put
Yeah.
it out the door. You know,
Right.
they're
Right.
not ones that really. They're not doing anything on the scale of like Final Fantasy VII remake or
Hmm.
like um, the Shadow of the Colossus remake. You know.
That's a good point. But yeah, I guess from what I understand, this game though is massive, and I think you can get that from the trailer, or if you just played Breath of the Wild, that game was already massive. But now there's the sky, and I heard, I won't spoil anything. I heard there's more than that going on, but it just
Well,
seems like a massive
I've played
game.
it for about over 20 hours,
Okay.
and as I said, I've done about 2 dungeons.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and then the shrines are back again, right? From my understanding.
Yeah, I think there's now, as I said, I ain't played Breath of the Wild for like 7 years, but I think there's less of them.
Okay.
It don't. I remember in Breath of the Wild, like everywhere you stood, you could see like 4 or 5.
Right. Mhm.
I don't feel like there's as many, but I
Okay.
also feel like there is more to do just in the world.
Hmm.
Like there seems to be like more side quests and things like that, more
Yeah.
just going on.
Okay. And the story, at least so far, is it interesting to you? I mean, it's a direct continuation of the last game, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
Pretty much.
mean, no one plays Zelda for the story.
I mean, it can be really interesting, but I get it. I
Yeah,
know what you
yeah,
mean.
yeah. I mean, it's I can't say anything without spoiling it, but
That's
like
fair.
an evil befalls Hyrule and you've got to fix it. Essentially, you know.
Yeah, I
Gotcha.
wonder who it is. No, that's fair. That's fair. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely excited to play for it. I just, like I said before, haven't just due to time. But next week, I'm going to finally dig into it. I am really excited. I mean, of course, it's getting like 10 out of 10s across the board. Another masterpiece. It is, like, I have to say, it is impressive to see how the Nintendo, and I guess more specifically Zelda, can keep making these like masterpiece level games. And even with like,
Well,
well, like even their other franchises that are still good, they're usually like 8s and 9s, but like Zelda, like the last bunch have been.
so apparently it's like the same team
Mhm.
who even made the original Zelda.
That wouldn't shock me.
Like apparently that team is like been together and made like every game.
I know there's like Eiji Aonuma is like now the lead, and he started out on some other games, and obviously Miyamoto was involved. So I knew like at some level leadership had been kind of the same, but as far as like the working team, yeah, I mean that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
It's just a quality game all over. And like normally you see like when you talked about Deathloop and you're like, how is this game getting 10 out of 10s?
yeah,
Is this game a 10 out of 10 for me? I don't know. Maybe not. But I don't look out 10 out of 10 reviews and go, are you guys insane?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I know they haven't announced this yet, but I'm gonna assume there's gonna be DLC for this game. They did it for Breath of the Wild. I would be curious what it would be, because I feel like the DLC for Breath of the Wild, like, it was neat. It had some cosmetic stuff, and then there was like the motorcycle you could get basically
I
in it.
didn't bother with it because it looked like it was just going to be more trials, and I never even finished the ones that were in the original game.
There was, I mean, aspects of it were fun, but it just seemed like some extra tacked on stuff that really wasn't needed. I'd be curious if they do something a little bit more
Mm,
substantial for this one, if they do it at all, I guess. But
yeah.
so, but yeah,
All
sounds
right.
like though. Having a good time?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. All right. Yeah, eventually, when I get to it and whenever we beat it, we'll probably talk about more spoiler and random stuff in depth at a future date. But yeah, I'm looking forward to playing it. It's going to be good.
All right, over to you for tacked on DLC. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So I talked about maybe a month or two ago, I think, about Marvel Midnight Suns, and you can go back and look at that video for my general take on it. But at the time, there was the base game, and then they started a season pass, and only 2 out of the 4 packs were out at the time. So just as a general refresher, there's the main story that's going on, and then the DLC stuff is basically you're getting extra characters for your party that you can swap in and out when you're making your team for each mission. And then along with that comes their own set of story missions. But what's cool about it is there's 4 DLC packs that are all now out. The story that happens across the 4 DLC packs is also one big story, with each character having their own like part of it essentially. So I thought that was cool. I thought they were all going to be like their own like one-off story, and then they kind of join the team, but it's actually like an overarching story, which I thought was pretty neat. So the first DLC characters in that one were, who is it? Venom and Deadpool. So those were just fun additions. And then the most recent additions, one of the a meme favorites, Morbius, got brought in to be a playable character. And
I think they planned that one a little before.
That's what I was saying, is like, that can't be a coincidence. Like, if it wasn't for that movie and maybe hardcore fans, who the fuck would know who Morbius is? Like, Venom, Deadpool, people would know who that is, but like Morbius. So to be fair, it was good. He was a good character, like in the context of this game.
Unlike the Oscar-worthy movie, yeah.
Yeah, clearly. And then the final character that they did just the other week was Storm from the X-Men. So I guess overall the main story was between all the 4 DLC characters is there's a bunch of vampires taking over, and they're like these blood-thirsty like zombie vampires, I guess I'll say. And it's about you like going into finding out what's going on and why they're invading. And I will say the bosses you fight in this game were also very unique. Not just the character themselves, but how you do the fight. Because like in a lot of games, it's like, okay, knock down all their health and they're dead. But like, because this is more of a strategy game, they actually added some interesting elements of like, okay, if you don't kill them in X amount of turns, they'll keep regenerating their health, or more enemies keep popping up, or you have to keep doing it before they do this other attack. So it's not just keep hitting, and that's it. There's actually like, you have to think about how you want to do your turns, which was fun. But the Morbius character was fun. He's just just another smart scientist, so he uses more like science-y kind of moves where he can like hide himself and like alter people's DNA. Yeah, I guess, how would you define morb? What does morbing mean to you?
I think everyone has their own definition of what morbing is to them.
So then, yes, he absolutely does. But he's a fun character, whatever. And then Storm, I will say, was an awesome character because I think, I don't know how purposeful per se this was with leaving her to be the last one, but she's like overpowered as shit, which is awesome because by the time you play with her, assuming you've been following along, you've already beaten the game and you're kind of powered up. And so now you have this other character who just decimates people with like lightning storms, and she has a lot of like area what's it called, AoE, area of effect attacks, where it's like 6 people at once get like electrocuted and shit. So she's just a really cool character as well. But I will say the character, her and Morbius, were just fun additions. So really, to be honest, not a super long review, other than if I was giving it a glowing review last time, I would highly recommend playing this game now, especially that the DLC is out. Maybe you can get like a nice combo, like discount or something with it. I looked at how many hours I logged after it's all said and done now, and it's 53 hours, which I just am still...
That's in the game in total, right? Not just in this DLC.
Yeah, I really liked Morbius, just FYI. Yes, the entire total amount of time that I've been playing this game. And to be honest, even though I basically did everything, there's a couple of more side things I could keep doing. And even if you beat the game, like I said when I talked about the game originally, it's just a daily reset kind of thing where every day you can go on another mission and then do, social links with your characters with like
Well,
relationships.
it's a shame that this game did kind of flopped because
Yeah.
I think they kind of even did the now common Twitter post apology.
Well,
And like,
literally the CEO said this game is a flop. Like,
yeah, yeah, I
so
don't like this new trend of the Twitter message of the company with
the
the so and
logo,
so
yeah.
team is very upset that this didn't do as well as fans were expecting. But it seems like they made a good game. I don't know if it was just maybe the marketing or
Bad timing a little bit with other releases.
November, I think, came out, didn't it? Which
I think
you
so.
shouldn't. This ain't a November game. Like I've
Yeah.
not played it. Just looking at the box, at what the game is, the trailers. You don't release that at like Call of Duty, sort of FIFA, Madden time. You know.
Yeah, it was kind of bad timing. And to be fair, this game is a bit of a niche. Like, it's this type of game isn't, it's not even just because it's a turn-based game, but it's a turn-based strategy card deck building social link Marvel game. Like, I can't compare it to anything
You know what? This
necessarily.
would be a good time to bring it out now. It's a week or two after Zelda.
Yeah.
There's not much going up until probably Final Fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Like this would have been like a good little slot for it, you
Yeah.
know. Like there's not much going. It just seems like they kind of wanted to get out and thought maybe the Marvel name would carry it on.
Probably, and it is a shame because it's an awesome. The game itself, as I've said before plenty of times, it's an awesome game. But I would also say it's probably the best Marvel story in a long time. Like, I mean, I know we talked about Guardians, which I finally watched, and that's definitely one of the better ones because it's a James Gunn movie. But like, as we've said 1,000 times, the other movies have been mostly shit. This is like this story is a good mix of like some of the stuff that people like from the comics, from the movies, just general pop culture knowledge. Like, it's just an awesome
Mm.
collection of characters and stories. So once again, as a general review for the game, it's amazing. The DLC packs, though, I will say I thought they were worth it. And now you could probably get it discounted because it's all out now, or just wait another month or two. I'm sure it'll come out at a lower price. But yeah, highly recommend it. It's fun characters, fun game. Yeah, I had a blast.
I think I've seen the game now for like 30, $40 in some
Yeah.
places.
And DLC probably it is a good chunk of DLC, so that also might be another $30 at this point. So probably for the price of a full game now, you can get everything. And I would
Yeah.
honestly say it's worth it. It's not just like tacked on cosmetic BS. Like, you do get some of that, but it's an actual like full new story and new characters, which is really cool. So, but yeah, I would give them a thumbs up. All right. Over to you for this interesting surprise.
So, I think a few times I've suggested things to you, and you've been like, "Oh yeah," and then you message me a couple of days later, and you're like, "Oh, I watched it," and I feel like all the time you're like this, and I never watch anything.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's all good.
Yeah, and I'm always like, I should something Myshtuff suggests.
Okay, all right.
And
oh God.
I actually probably did this about 2 or 3 months ago.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of kept it a secret.
Oh
Because
God.
I was like, I'll do it for like the 50th or something like that.
The one time.
Well, I also thought as well it would take me a while to do as well.
Sure. Okay.
So,
God, the anticipation.
I watched something.
Uh-huh.
A full season or something.
Okay.
So there's this book, right? It's called A Death Note.
Oh no! Oh God, what have you done?
Yeah. Apparently, if you write in it, it kills the person.
Jesus Christ! You watched Death Note, the anime?
Yep, I watched the anime. Definitely.
The entire series.
I watched the entire series.
Wow! Finally did it. We finally did it. It took this long. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, what'd you think?
It's all right.
Just all right. I'll stop you right there. One of the most beloved animes of all time. Granted, maybe more so for our generation because it kind of was very different for the time. It does rank pretty high on most ranking lists for anime. But okay, so why is it? And just to be fair, I do like it. It's not a favorite of mine, but I do like it a decent amount. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I hated a lot of the characters in it for being too anime.
Well, yeah.
Right. Is it L?
So there's Light, who's the main guy with the Death Note, and then L is like the weirdo.
Didn't like him at all. Too weird. Trying to do the Sherlock Holmes stuff, right?
Yeah.
And why would governments listen to this person?
See, you're already trying to put logic into an anime. That's the first problem.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to sound like a YouTube thumbnail when I say this. Is it Misa is the girl?
Yep.
The moment she appeared, I felt like there was a sharp downturn in quality. But that is just because she is written like an anime girl and not like an actual person.
Yep.
Right, and
Agreed.
I didn't like that character at all.
Sure.
Because it was too anime.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Like, there are other female characters in that show written so much better.
Like
the reporter that comes in towards the end and stuff like that made so much more sense. Whereas she's just like always screaming and stuff like that. Which, when your wife's like, "What are you watching?" and you're trying to explain it is an adult kid show.
This is a show for children.
Adult anime.
Yes, get it right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's the thing: it is an awesome concept.
Yeah,
I love this concept. Right. I don't like how quickly they essentially narrow it down to like 2 people.
Yeah, that is true. You have to like. That's the thing too. Is it was based off. So to step back for a second, there's the manga that came out first, and that's only 12 volumes total. And I think this is one of the things when you're going from an original manga to anime is in the manga you usually have a little bit more time to flesh things out. Even though it's a shorter manga series, you can at least the passage of time I feel like is easier to believe. Whereas an anime, if you're watching like a single episode, it's like boom, 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 things happening. So like I kind of get what you mean by that.
Yeah, I just also find it like essentially as soon as the detective is like assigned to the case, L, he's like, "Oh, this guy's clearly a high school student in this part of Japan," and I'm like, "What?"
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm like, why? Like, and I know he has like his logic and his reasoning, right? But what if this guy's a night owl in America?
That's that's so funny. I've never heard it put that way. Yeah.
Well, like, not being funny, when I was like 16, 18, I used to go to sleep at like 4 a.m. until 1 p.m.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
No, that's when I'm doing it, when everyone else is in bed.
Yeah, there's definitely... this I could say this about anime in general, but definitely for this show there's a lot of suspension of disbelief for sure. Like I think why people loved the show is just the general concept, and then they kind of forget.
That's it.
Yeah,
what annoyed me is it's such a good concept that I feel kind of was wasted.
I don't know if I would say it was wasted, but I agree that you had to suspend your disbelief more than maybe I would have liked to. And once again, to be clear, when this came out, I was 17, 18, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
And I think it just hit a certain nerve with a lot of anime manga fans that they just loved it, and they were like, and I think mainly because in comparison to so much other stuff that was coming out, and sorry, keep in mind this is a Shonen Jump manga originally. Which means I'm assuming you don't know what that means. What I just said,
but for any
yeah, okay, basically the same company as like Naruto and Bleach, One Piece, like Dragon Ball, like
soap opera anime type.
Yeah, so this was like very, very different than a lot of that stuff. So I think just in comparison, that's why people loved it so much. So it is interesting though that you're now watching it kind of removed from that time. And like I've told you before, like since last year, I've been watching all kinds of movies and shows that I've just never bothered with before that are like pop culture staples. And I'm similarly going like, yeah, Indiana Jones, it's all right. It's not like my
Yeah.
favorite franchise. So
This actually does something that I read before the Doom movie came out. I actually read the first Doom book,
mhm,
and I hated how it was written. And I
sure.
know that's kind of like also seen as sacrilege on the internet, but every character in that book is like, oh, I just said that and it's a lie, and that person knows it's a lie, but I want to see how they react. And then it
Yeah.
cuts to the other person, and it's like, he's lying to me, but he wants to see how I react.
Yeah.
So I'll give like a sly smile, and then it'll
Hmm.
cut back to the other person. He's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, is he just pretending to sly smile?" You know what I mean? It's just mind games the entire time. I'm like, this isn't how people interact. I'm like, and I just
Yes.
found it so frustrating to read because it'd be 3 pages and they've said 2 sentences to each other.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
this show has that same thing where it's like they're
Hmm.
just two people essentially trying to make each other trip up in the most ridiculous way ever. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm just, ugh.
Yeah. There's some parts later on, and this happens. I will say, especially in the manga, where the levels of I'll just say like mental chess and planning that one character has to do to like trap someone is so stupidly specific and deep that no way in hell would this ever happen in like
Yeah,
reality. And that's where I'm saying like, okay, I can suspend my disbelief, but then it gets to a point where I'm like, okay, this is just kind of stupid now. So like I do get what you mean.
yeah, yeah. And I feel like this show maybe should have ended a lot sooner than it did.
Well, the show
'Cause-
kind of almost has like not two endings, but there's
Yeah,
something important that kind of happens towards the middle ish that
it feels very tacked on at the end there.
yeah.
Like it feels more like an epilogue.
Yeah, exactly. And then they kind of introduce a couple of new characters that are sort of meant to fill some shoes a little bit. So
But then they
it's
do essentially the same thing as a previous
exactly.
character, so it's like, why did you even get rid of the first one in the first place?
Exactly. So and just to be clear, that also does happen in the manga, and I have to wonder, given how short the manga was, like because a lot of these manga series they're either still ongoing or they're like hundreds of volumes, but this one once again was like 12, 13. So I do wonder why. I don't know if the author and artist ever created or if they ever discussed why they made that story change or not,
If it
but
was like popular, maybe they kind of got like pressured into it, or
could be, yeah.
yeah.
Interestingly, because oh no, I mentioned this last year. They did a follow-up volume that I briefly
Hmm.
reviewed that takes place like 10 years after the series ends with some tacked-on stuff, and I thought that was kind of a fun little return to it. But yeah, as far as like the core series itself goes, uh, it definitely it's. I haven't rewatched it in like 15 years or something like that. It has a special place, I'll say, for me, but it's certainly not like a favorite of mine either.
Okay, because like I know you didn't like the Netflix movie.
That's well, okay, not exact. Okay, as an adaptation of the source material, it was complete dog shit. As a funny, stupid B movie, it's kind of fun to watch. I will say that.
Because as I say, I love the premise of this. A
Yeah,
Death Note is so cool
yeah.
because, like, I'm in no way like a serial killer, but I
Go
think
on.
everyone has that thought of what would I do if I had one.
Sure.
When you like hear this concept or start watching this show, there's that part of your head that's like, if that fell into my lap, what would I do?
Yeah, well, I
You,
don't know if you remember or not, but shortly after I don't know if it was the manga or the anime, there were some reports of kids in schools like bringing in fake death notes in their backpacks, and like people were starting to get worried.
the internet, I remember, started a rumor that Chris Chan had one because,
He would be the most likely culprit for sure.
yeah.
Um,
But no, so that's why I think like I don't dislike the idea of someone like Netflix or whatever
mhm,
getting the rights to something like Death Note, right?
sure.
based on what I've not seen that movie, but essentially it's a remake, but an American version of the
Yeah,
original.
so here's the interesting thing. After the anime came out in Japan, there was a few live action adaptations already. So interestingly, they made multiple live action movies of this material of the source material, and they actually changed it for some pretty important shit as well. I think they're all terrible. Like they're not good at all. Interestingly, though, they also did another action adaptation as a TV series, like a mini series of like 10 episodes. And surprisingly, I thought that was actually pretty good. I'm curious if you were to watch that at some point, because yes, I mean, it's still Death Note, but at least it's not so over the top anime but it's still the same core concept. I think you actually might potentially like that. But then the Netflix movie is just like an American stupid goofy adaptation with Willem Dafoe as Ryuk, and then my head exploded. Like,
But I would love, just even if it is an American adaptation, anywhere in the world, right?
mm-hmm,
Gan, imagine if the Death Note fell here.
mm-hmm,
That's it. That's the concept you've got. Run with it. Like, I know Netflix got it, and they were like, "Oh, we're going to adapt the original series of Death Note." But what
mm-hmm.
if they'd got a writer in and said, "Right, all we want it set in America because for
Yeah,
whatever test audiences they care more
yeah,
if it's in America, right? That is our one condition and the rules of the Death Note, right?
yeah,
Make whatever you want."
yeah.
I would have been much. I would be, after watching the anime,
Mm-hmm,
I would then be so excited to watch even like the Netflix movie or any kind of movie if they were
mm-hmm.
just like, this is just Death Note, the book, in another scenario.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, give the Netflix movie a watch. I mean, if you just want to laugh, like more than
Yeah.
anything, just watch it for that because you will laugh. I mean, you'll if you're. But now that you've seen the anime, I think you'll understand. And this is the much bigger issue of Netflix and other companies who keep wanting to adapt anime and do it in the most horrendous way possible where it's pure garbage. But this Netflix one was like a special case because they Americanized it and it's like I don't even know what I'm watching anymore, but
Yeah.
it was funny, I will say that.
Yeah. I mean,
um,
I this yet again I think kind of reinforces my point that I just don't think I get anime. Um,
I will say, and that's totally fair. Anime is not for everyone. I don't think everyone needs to like absolutely has to love it. I will say though, this anime is still another shonen anime, which is like
yeah.
everything you just said about like the mega anime tropes and all of that shit is still there. I could recommend you dozens of other ones that are nothing like that, that are more akin to like a drama movie, just in anime form that I really think you would like. But we'll save that for the 100th episode.
I've got to watch every episode of Star Trek and movie between
Yeah,
now
yeah,
and the 100th.
we got some time. But no, it's totally fair. I will say though, so can you remind me how many episodes was it? It wasn't like super long, was it?
I think it was around 30.
30. Okay, so yeah, roughly. So that's not
Because I
too
was
bad.
like I was like watching one a night for a while.
Yeah, yeah, that's not too bad because there are also other series that are more like just mini series, like 10 episode, 15 episode type of stuff as well, which you could recommend. But okay, that's fair. I am proud of you that you watched an anime. This is a leap
Thanks, Dan.
forward. You've done it. You've accomplished it. That is funny. I can't say I knew it was something that I had probably mentioned before, but I was not expecting Death Note. So that is pretty funny. Oh
I thought
goodness,
Star
but like
Trek's too on the nose.
yeah, exactly, probably. But yeah, I'm gonna try and think if you really are not a fan of those typical anime tropes, which once again I get, I'm for the most part am not either. I'm gonna see if I can possibly find something else to recommend at some point.
Yeah.
Are you? Let me put it this way: are you willing to watch another anime if it's just a movie instead of a series?
Yeah, honestly, I still wouldn't. The thing that most attracted me to Death Note was the concept.
That's a good point. Yeah, why Death Note? Okay, so the concept.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, why Death Note is because Netflix were like, "Oh, we're going to cancel the password sharing soon." I was like, "What do I need to watch on Netflix?" Um,
Fair.
that's more the real reason.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no. So
Okay.
I'm not going to rule out anime out forever.
Sure.
Like, I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah.
a bit silly. it's sort of like going like, oh, I'm never going to watch another drama movie because I didn't like the
Yeah.
last two I watched or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's usually when I talk to people who aren't typically anime fans. It's exactly what you just said. Like, it's fine if you don't like an anime, but why like a specific one? There are many
Mm.
like animation styles, storytelling beats, story structures. Yeah, it's a genre more like, I guess you could say you don't like a genre. Like, if you don't like comedies, that would be a little weird. But or if you don't like dramas, but
And
yeah.
then they go, "Sir, this is a Wendy's. Please order and move aside."
Stop talking to me about Death Note, please, sir. I'm worried.
Please take your love pillow with you.
Well, let's not get too hasty. So, anyways, but yeah, no, I'm glad you finally watched a staple of the anime community. That's funny to hear. So I'm glad.
All right,
Goodness. All
I'm
right.
gonna say thumbs down for me.
That's all
Okay,
good.
thumbs down for me.
I
But
mean, just
yeah,
be
we'll leave it at
prepared.
that.
Prepared for the vitriol and hate comments, obviously coming your way. How dare you?
Few death threats.
There you go. Get your death notes
Write me in
out.
your death notes. See if I care.
That's a good point. If you well, actually, no, I'm not going to ask this question. This could go a very dark way. Never mind.
We'll say that off camera.
Yes. What would you put in your death note? So yes, Zelda, of course, unsurprisingly, thumbs up. Marvel Midnight Suns continues to be thumbs up. So highly recommend that. And then Death Note, we'll say it's somewhere in the middle. I happen to enjoy it from 15 years ago. Maybe if I rewatched it, I'd probably maybe things will change. But don't if you don't like it, completely understand. It's all good. So, but yes, thank you for tuning in to our 50th anniversary spectacular. Put some effects right here, right there, maybe. Yeah, put some horn blasts, obviously. But yeah, stay tuned, of course, for the next one. Subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and then we'll see you on the next one. See ya.
Bye.